3 true Wendy's horror stories. Animated story. 1. The manager's office. My name is Terrell, and I was 26 years old when this happened. I'd just been promoted to assistant manager at a Wendy's in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was working my first solo closing shift without the general manager present. It was a Sunday night in late September, around 10:30 p.m., and the restaurant was empty, except for me and 2 other employees finishing cleanup. I was in the back office counting the register drawer when I noticed something on the security monitor that made me stop breathing. There was a man standing in the hallway outside the office door. A man who had not come through the front entrance. A man who had been hiding somewhere in the building since before we locked the doors. Before I continue, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you are watching from tonight. Because what happened in that office is something that changed the way I think about security forever. The Wendy's I worked at was located on a busy commercial strip that got quiet after dark. During the day, we had a constant flow of customers. But by 9 p.m. traffic slowed to a trickle, and by 10, we were usually empty. We closed the dining room at 10 and the drive-thru at 11, giving us an hour to clean up and count out the registers before going home. I had been working at that location for about 2 years, starting as a crew member and working my way up. The promotion to assistant manager came with more responsibility, including closing shifts where I was the highest-ranking employee in the building. The general manager, a woman named Deborah, had trained me thoroughly on the closing procedures. Lock the doors at 10. Finish serving any remaining drive-through customers. Clean the dining room and kitchen. Count the registers. Make the night deposit. Set the alarm. Leave. That Sunday was my 3rd solo close, and I felt confident. The evening had been uneventful. We had maybe 40 customers between 6 and 10, typical for a Sunday. By 10:15, the dining room was clean, and my 2 remaining employees, a teenager named Marcus and a college student named Danielle, were finishing up the kitchen. I went to the back office to start counting the register drawer. The office was small, maybe 8 feet by 10 feet, with a desk, a safe, a filing cabinet, and a bank of security monitors showing feeds from cameras throughout the restaurant. I sat down at the desk and started sorting bills and coins, glancing at the monitors occasionally out of habit. At 10:28, I looked up at the monitors and saw him. He was standing in the hallway that connected the kitchen to the back office area, just standing there facing the camera, not moving. He was wearing dark clothes, a hoodie, with the hood pulled up, and I couldn't see his face clearly because of the camera angle. But I could tell he was looking toward the office door, toward me. My first thought was that it must be Marcus or Danielle, that maybe one of them had put on a hoodie I had not noticed before. But I could see the kitchen on another monitor, and both Marcus and Danielle were there, working unaware that anyone else was in the building. The man on the screen was not an employee, he was a stranger, and he was inside my restaurant. I froze. My hand was still holding a stack of 20 suspended over the desk. My brain was trying to process what I was seeing, trying to find an innocent explanation. Maybe he had come in before we locked the doors. Maybe he was hiding in the bathroom when we did our walkthrough. Maybe he was waiting for us to leave so he could rob the place. Or maybe he was waiting for something else entirely. I put down the money slowly, trying not to make any sudden movements, even though I knew he could not see me through the camera. I reached for my phone in my pocket. I needed to call 911. I needed to warn Marcus and Danielle. I needed to do something. The man started moving. On the monitor, I watched him walk slowly down the hallway toward the office door. His movements were deliberate, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world, like he knew exactly what he was doing. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher answered, and I whispered into the phone, trying to keep my voice steady. I told her my location, told her there was an intruder in the building, told her I needed police immediately. She asked me to stay on the line. I said I could not, that I needed to warn my employees. I ended the call and keyed the radio that connected to the headsets in the kitchen. I told Marcus and Danielle to get out of the building immediately. I told them to go out the back door by the dumpsters and wait in the parking lot. I told them not to come toward the office. I told them there was someone in the building who should not be there. I watched the kitchen monitor. Marcus looked up, confused. Danielle said something I could not hear. Then Marcus grabbed Danielle's arm and they both headed for the back exit. Smart kid. He did not ask questions. He just moved. On the hallway monitor, the man had reached the office door. He was standing right outside, maybe 3 feet from where I was sitting. The door was closed, but not locked. I never locked it during closing because I was constantly going back and forth between the office and the rest of the building. A habit I would never repeat. I watched the door handle. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the handle started to turn. I moved. I grabbed the heavy 3-ring binder that held our operational manuals, the only thing within reach that could serve as a weapon. I positioned myself against the wall beside the door, where I would be behind it when it opened. The door swung inward. I could see his shadow on the floor, elongated by the hallway light. He stepped into the office, looking toward the desk, where I had been sitting, not seeing me behind the door. I swung the binder as hard as I could at the side of his head. It connected with a solid thud. He stumbled sideways, catching himself on the desk, more surprised than hurt. I didn't wait to see if he would recover. I ran. Out the door, down the hallway, through the kitchen, toward the back exit, where I had told Marcus and Danielle to go. I burst through the back door and into the parking lot. Marcus and Danielle were there, standing by Marcus's car, looking scared and confused. I told them to get in the car and lock the doors. I told them the police were coming. We sat in that car for maybe 4 minutes before the police arrived. 4 of the longest minutes of my life. I kept watching the back door, expecting the man to come through it, expecting him to come after us. He never did. The police searched the building and found him hiding in the walk-in freezer. He had a backpack with him containing duct tape zip ties, a hunting knife, and a ski mask. He had not been planning to rob us. The police said he was planning something much worse. They arrested him and charged him with breaking and entering possession of burglary tools and attempted kidnapping based on the contents of his backpack. During the investigation, they discovered he had a history. He had done time for assault in another state. He had been linked to 2 other incidents at fast food restaurants, incidents where female employees had been attacked after closing. He had targeted our Wendy's because he had been watching us for weeks. He knew our closing schedule. He knew there was usually a young woman working the closing shift. He had snuck in through a delivery entrance that had a faulty lock, something none of us knew about, and hidden in a storage closet until after we locked the doors. If I had not happened to look up at that security monitor at that exact moment, if I had been counting the money with my head down for another minute or two, if he had reached the office before I noticed him, I do not want to think about what would have happened. Danielle quit the next day. She said she couldn't come back to that building. I understood. I almost quit, too. But I stayed partly because I needed the job, and partly because I felt responsible for making sure what happened to us never happened to anyone else. The delivery entrance got a new lock. We added a security camera to the storage closet. We started doing multiple walkthroughs after locking the doors, and I never closed alone again. Ever. But even with all those changes, I still think about that night. That figure on the security monitor. That door handle slowly turning. That moment when I realized there was nothing between me and a man with a knife except a 3-ring binder and pure luck. If you work in a restaurant, especially if you work closing shifts, please pay attention. Check your security cameras. Check your locks. Check your storage closets and bathrooms and anywhere else someone might hide. Because you never know who might be waiting for the building to empty out. You never know who might be watching you, learning your schedule, planning something terrible. And sometimes the only thing that saves you is looking up at the right moment and seeing what you were never supposed to see. Story 2. The parking lot encounter. My name is Rashad, and I was 31 years old when this happened. I was a regional trainer for a fast food company, and I had just finished a 12-hour shift helping a Wendy's location in rural Arkansas get ready for a corporate inspection. It was around 11:15 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and I was walking across the empty parking lot to my rental car exhausted and thinking about nothing but the hotel bed waiting for me 20 minutes away. The parking lot was poorly lit with only 3 working lights covering an area meant for 50 cars. I was about halfway to my vehicle when I heard footsteps behind me. Footsteps that were moving fast, faster than someone who is just walking to their car. Before I continue, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what happened in that parking lot is a warning to anyone who walks alone at night. The Wendy's was located at an exit off a rural highway, the kind of location that served mostly truckers and travelers passing through. The nearest town was about 5 miles away, and there was nothing else at this exit except a gas station across the road that had closed at 9. Once the sun went down, the area got dark fast. I had been at the location since 11 that morning, working with the crew on food preparation standards, customer service protocols, and general cleanliness. The inspection was scheduled for Thursday, and the general manager was nervous. She wanted everything perfect. So I stayed late, making sure every detail was right, until I finally felt confident enough to leave. By the time I walked out the back door, the restaurant had been closed for almost an hour. The closing crew had left through the front, their cars gone from the lot. The only vehicle remaining was my rental, a white sedan parked near the back of the lot where I had left it that morning. The night was quiet, crickets chirping somewhere in the darkness. the distant hum of traffic on the highway, the buzzing of the few parking lot lights that were still working. I walked toward my car keys in hand, thinking about nothing in particular. That is when I heard the footsteps. They came from somewhere behind me, from the direction of the gas station across the road. At first, I thought maybe it was someone else heading to a car, though there were no other cars visible. But the footsteps were getting louder, getting closer, moving at a pace that was definitely faster than a casual walk. I turned around. A man was coming toward me across the parking lot. He had emerged from the shadows near the edge of the property where the light did not reach. He was maybe 30 feet away and closing fast. I could not see his face clearly because of the darkness, but I could see his posture, aggressive, purposeful. His hands were clenched at his sides, and he was moving directly toward me. My heart rate spiked. Every instinct told me this was not a friendly encounter. This was not someone asking for directions or spare change. This was someone with bad intentions. I ran. I sprinted toward my car, fumbling with the key fob, pressing the unlock button repeatedly. The car chirped 20 feet ahead of me, 15 feet, 10 feet. I could hear him behind me, his footsteps pounding on the asphalt, getting closer. I reached the car and yanked open the driver's door. I threw myself inside and slammed the door shut. My fingers found the lock button, and I pressed it just as he reached the vehicle. He grabbed the door handle and pulled. The door held. He pulled again, harder, his face appearing in the window. I got my first clear look at him. He was maybe late 20s, with a gaunt face and wild eyes. He was not wearing a mask or trying to hide his identity. He was just staring at me through the glass with an expression that was pure rage, pure hunger, something primal that made my blood freeze. He started pounding on the window, not with his fists, with something metal, a crowbar or a tire iron. The glass cracked on the second hit. Spiderweb fractures spreading across the window. I started the car. The engine turned over and I threw it into reverse, flooring the accelerator. The car shot backward away from him, tires squealing on the asphalt. He stumbled after me for a few steps, then stopped. I swung the car around and headed for the exit, watching him in my rearview mirror. He was not chasing me anymore. He was just standing there in the parking lot, that metal object hanging at his side, watching me drive away. I did not stop until I reached the gas station in the next town about 5 miles down the highway. I pulled in under the bright lights and sat there for a few minutes, hands shaking, trying to calm down. Then I called the police. They sent a unit to the Wendy's parking lot, but by the time they arrived, the man was gone. They searched the area, checked the gas station across the road, drove up and down the highway. Nothing. The officer who took my statement said there had been other incidents in the area. A couple of truckers had reported being approached by someone matching my description at rest stops along that stretch of highway. A woman had her car window smashed at a different restaurant parking lot a few weeks earlier. Nobody had been caught. He said I was lucky. He said the cracked window probably would have given way on the next hit, or two. He said if I had been any slower getting to my car, or if the locks had malfunctioned, things could have ended very differently. I finished my job at that Wendy's location the next day, but I made sure to leave before sunset. I parked right next to the entrance in a spot I could see from inside the restaurant. I asked one of the employees to walk out with me when I left. The corporate inspection went fine. The restaurant passed. Nobody knew what had happened to me in the parking lot the night before. I did not tell them. I just did my job and got out of there as fast as I could. They caught him about 3 weeks later. He had attacked someone else at a truck stop about 50 miles north. This time, his victim fought back with a knife they kept in their car. The man was injured badly enough that he could not run. The police found him trying to crawl toward the highway. He was charged with multiple counts of assault, attempted robbery, and some other things I do not remember. The investigation revealed he had been living in the woods near that highway exit for months, coming out at night to prey on people who stopped at isolated businesses. I think about that night sometimes. The sound of his footsteps behind me, the rage in his eyes when he grabbed my door handle, the crack of metal against glass. How close he came. I travel for work less now. When I do, I stay at hotels near busy areas with well-lit parking lots. I carry a personal safety alarm on my keychain. I always scan my surroundings before getting out of my car, and I never walk across a dark parking lot without a plan for what I will do if something goes wrong. That night taught me that danger doesn't wait for you to be ready. It does not announce itself. It comes out of the darkness behind you, moving fast, while you're thinking about hotel beds and the end of a long day. Pay attention. Stay aware. And if you hear footsteps behind you that are moving too fast, do not wait to find out why. Run. Story 3. The Night Deposit. My name is Clayton, and I was 29 years old when this happened. I was the general manager of a Wendy's in a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee, and I was making the nightly bank deposit at a 24-hour ATM about half a mile from the restaurant. It was around 11:45 p.m. on a Friday night, and I had done this same routine hundreds of times without incident. Pull up to the ATM deposit, the cash bag, get the receipt, drive home. Simple and safe. At least that is what I always thought. But that Friday someone was watching. Someone who knew exactly when I would be there and exactly how much money I would be carrying. If you are new to this channel, hit subscribe and leave a comment below, because this story is a warning about the dangers of routine. The deposit procedure was standard across all our locations. After closing, the manager would count the day's cash, prepare the deposit slip seal, everything in a tamper, evident bag, and take it to a designated bank location for deposit. Most of our locations use 24-hour ATMs with deposit capabilities, which allowed us to make deposits late at night when the bank itself was closed. The ATM I used was at a bank branch in a strip mall about half a mile from the restaurant. The location was well lit, and there was usually traffic on the road even late at night. I had never felt unsafe making deposits there. It was just another part of the routine. That Friday had been busy. Football season meant larger crowds, and we'd done almost $6,000 in sales. The cash bag was heavier than usual, stuffed with bills and coins and credit card receipts. I left the restaurant around 11:30, driving my personal vehicle, the deposit bag on the passenger seat beside me. I pulled into the bank parking lot at 11:40. There were no other cars in the lot, which was normal for this time of night. The ATM was in a small vestibule attached to the side of the bank building, protected by a glass enclosure with a door that required a bank card to enter after hours. I parked in the space closest to the vestibule, grabbed the deposit bag, and got out of my car. I swiped my bank card at the door and stepped inside. The vestibule was small, maybe 6 feet by 8 feet, with the ATM on one wall, and bright fluorescent lights overhead. I started the deposit process, fed my card into the machine, entered my PIN-selected deposit, opened the slot. I was sliding the cash bag into the machine when the vestibule door opened behind me. I turned around. A man was standing in the doorway blocking my exit. He was wearing a dark hoodie and a bandana pulled up over his nose and mouth. In his right hand, he was holding a gun. Everything slowed down. I could see every detail with perfect clarity. The black metal of the gun, the way his hand was shaking slightly, the eyes above the bandana, young eyes, scared eyes, but determined. He said to give him the money. He said it quick and nervous, like he was reading from a script he had memorized. I told him the money was already in the machine. I pointed at the ATM at the slot where the deposit bag was disappearing. The machine had already accepted it. There was nothing to give him. His eyes went to the ATM. Something changed in them. Confusion, then anger. He started yelling. He said I was lying. He said to get the money out of the machine. He said he knew how much was in there because he had been watching. He knew our Friday deposits were big. I told him I could not get it out. I told him once the machine accepted the deposit, it was gone. There was no way to retrieve it. That was the truth. He did not believe me. He stepped closer. The gun pointed at my chest, now maybe 3 feet away. He said to open the machine. He said I must have a key. He said to stop playing games. I did not have a key. No manager has a key to an ATM. The machines are serviced by armored car companies. I tried to explain this, tried to keep my voice calm, but he was not listening. He was getting more agitated, more desperate. Then I heard the sirens. Faint at first, but getting louder, coming from somewhere nearby. His head snapped toward the sound. Through the glass walls of the vestibule, we could both see the reflection of red and blue lights approaching on the main road. I do not know if those cops were coming for us, or just passing by on their way somewhere else. It did not matter. The man panicked. He looked at me, looked at the lights, made some kind of calculation in his head. Then he ran. He burst out of the vestibule door and sprinted across the parking lot toward the back of the strip mall. I watched him disappear into the darkness between buildings. The police car passed by on the main road without stopping. They had not been coming for us after all. Just luck. Pure luck. I stood in that vestibule for maybe 2 minutes before I could make my legs work again. Then I walked to my car on shaking legs, got inside, locked the doors, and called 911. The police came. They searched the area, but did not find him. They took my statement, reviewed the security footage from the ATM camera. The footage showed exactly what happened, including a clear view of the man's eyes above the bandana. Not enough to identify him, but enough to confirm my story. The detective who handled my case told me this was not random. The man had known about our deposit routine. He had known when I would be at that ATM and approximately how much money I would have. Someone had been watching our restaurant, learning our schedule, tracking our deposits. The detective asked if I had noticed anyone suspicious around the restaurant lately. anyone asking questions about our procedures, anyone who seemed to be paying too much attention. I thought about it, and then I remembered. About a week earlier, a man had come into the restaurant near closing time. He had asked a lot of questions. What time did we close? How many people worked the closing shift? Did the manager make bank deposits at night or wait until morning? I thought he was just making conversation. I answered his questions without thinking twice. I described the man to the detective. Average height, dark hair, young, maybe early 20s. The description matched the eyes I had seen above the bandana. He had been scouting us. He had walked right into the restaurant, talked to me, directly gathered all the information he needed. And I had given it to him friendly and unsuspecting, because I did not recognize the threat standing right in front of me. They never caught him. The case went cold after a few months, no other incidents matching the same pattern. Either he stopped, or he moved to a different area, or he got better at not getting caught. I stopped making night deposits alone after that. Company policy changed across the region. Now all deposits are made during daylight hours or with 2 employees present. ATM deposits are discouraged in favor of armored car pickups. But the policy change does not undo what happened. It does not erase the memory of that gun pointed at my chest. It does not make me forget the calculation in his eyes when he was deciding whether to pull the trigger. I left the restaurant industry about a year later. I work in an office now. No cash handling, no deposits, no closing shifts at locations that anyone might be watching. But I think about that vestibule sometimes, the glass walls that made me feel safe, but actually made me visible from every angle. The routine that I followed so predictably that someone could plan an ambush around it. The questions I answered without realizing I was giving someone a roadmap to rob me. If you work in a job that involves cash handling or deposits, please be careful. Vary your routine. Do not answer questions from strangers about your procedures. Pay attention to anyone who seems too interested in how your business operates, because somewhere out there, someone might be watching. Learning your schedule. Counting your money from a distance. Waiting for the night when the lights are right and the parking lot is empty and you are standing in a glass box with nowhere to run. Do not give them that opportunity. Do not make it easy. Those were 3 true Wendy's horror stories. Fast food restaurants are places we interact with every day, whether we are employees working behind the counter or customers passing through on our way somewhere else. We do not think of them as dangerous. We think of them as ordinary, familiar safe. But as these stories show, ordinary places can become hunting grounds. The manager's office where an intruder is waiting. The parking lot where a predator emerges from the shadows. The ATM vestibule where a routine deposit becomes a robbery. The people who mean us harm know that we feel safe in these places. They count on our complacency, our routines, our assumption that nothing bad will happen because nothing bad has happened before. If you work in the food service industry, especially if you work closing shifts or handle cash, please be vigilant. Check your security systems. Vary your routines. Pay attention to customers who ask too many questions about how your business operates. And if you find yourself alone in a parking lot late at night, or walking to your car after a long shift, or making a deposit at an ATM when no one else is around, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Stay safe out there. And remember that the most important thing you carry with you is not the money in your pocket. It is your awareness of the world around you.